Joining us right now from 2B is Karen Branden. She is the DFL endorsed candidate for 2B, and she's kind enough to join us as Democrat of the Day. Good afternoon, Karen. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Well, and thank you very much. I'm so glad. It's been so nice. As I mentioned with some of the other northern and especially the northwestern Democrats who are running, we did a lot out in the west, the southwest, and the south part of the state, and the central part of the state on the Iron Range. But we'd been missing a few people, getting more people from the northwest. So I'm so glad you had the time today to join us because these are districts that I think we can win if we get that message out there.
Absolutely, we can win this district if we get that message out there. You're absolutely right. And again, I thank you for having me on the show because I think often in the urban area they forget about us out here, and we're quite the group to be reckoned with.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think there are sometimes you get that, and I think I also think that this is kind of common for a lot of people in a lot of districts. Mm-hmm. You get so focused on what's in front of you, you don't realize the bigger game that's in play right now.
Sure.
And when we talk about these districts, and we had Michael Northbird was on with us last week. He's got that massive district. It's very difficult. It's not like Cheryl Uakim, who's my House rep in Hopkins. She's got basically a fairly contained little area. Not saying there's not a lot of houses to do door knocking on, but there's not a 45-minute drive to get from town to town to go do the door knocking. And these districts they're big, but they're manageable if you have the volunteer base. And that's what we're trying to do is get as many people from the metro area up to help you guys.
Oh, exactly. And I think a lot of people from the metro area have actually been into my district because I have the headwaters of the Mississippi.
Of course you do. Park Rapids. Let's
Itasca.
You've got Park Rapids, Itasca, Monument. What are the other cities in there?
Callaway, Waban, Lake Park, Audubon, Nevis.
Audubon, yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah, Frazee. Mm-hmm.
I was in Bemidji, and what's the festival in Monument? Oh, I can't. Is it Frontier Days? Was it Frontier Days? I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
I had a blast there. That was a good time. That's
Mahnomen.
Mahnomen. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's okay.
But no, it tells you how good of a time I had.
Right?
But
Mahnomen is fantastic.
Well, and you got the trails. You got a lot of people that get up there for tourism. And this is what one of the things I'm trying to do is trying to get as many people as possible that when they're up visiting their cabin, they're up doing the trails, they're up vacationing, that they're getting out there and they can just give your campaign a call and see how they can help out. Let's start off with this though. Who exactly is Karen Branden?
Well, I grew up in a place called Barnesville, Minnesota. It's a small farming community. My family didn't have a lot of money, so we didn't own a home, and basically was lucky enough to get into Minnesota State University Moorhead and got some federal and state assistance and worked my way through college. And after college, I ended up loving education, so got a master's and went on for a PhD, and now I teach at MSUM Moorhead. But I've taught in Bemidji as well, and I've taught in other places. So I'm a small town girl, and now I'm a woods woman. I've lived in my district for 27 years, and I'll spend the rest of my life here.
I was reading about that. Is your house pretty remote there?
Yeah, my house is kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's off a lake. It's back in the woods. We've got maple trees, and the Buffalo River runs right on the back part of our property. We tap the trees, and it's nice and quiet out here.
Well, no, that was one of the best parts when I lived in Bemidji, and I was working for KKBJ up there many years ago. And one of my favorite things to do on the weekends was you could get out in the woods, and my God, it was just lovely and quiet, and you kind of that embracing of nature, and I can see why that kind of a lifestyle really has its appeal.
Yes, absolutely. And I think a lot of people from the urban area come up here because we share Minnesota. A lot of us go to the urban area for our music, good restaurants, all sorts of entertainment we can get. We love Minneapolis, St. Paul, and we love it when people from there come out here so we can share all the resources that we have in the state. And I think, we break the state up into parts and pieces, but really we're all invested in flipping this state to blue.
We are.
And so we like the work that you're doing is so important because it highlights the fact that there are these places out that people can't see in front of them that can flip. And that, again, that's another vote in the House, right? That's another vote for Minnesota.
Well, it's a slightly incompetent megaphone is my job. You're doing the heavy lifting here. So you're out on you're you're out in your beautiful wooded lot here, but something happened. What prompted you to say, you know what, I'm doing it. I'm running for 2B?
Well, one of my friends tapped me, a woman named Kathy Coyle, who's now my campaign manager, said, we really need somebody to run in 2B. And I had thought about politics before, but I just, politics, it's a really big, heavy thing. And so when she asked me, I spent a lot of time talking about it. And I talked to my father. He was 86. He passed away 2 weeks ago. And he told me, go for it.
Well, I'm so sorry about the passing of your. Oh, I'm so sorry about your loss there. And he told you to go for it, and
Yep,
good
that's
for you.
okay. He told
Well,
me, he said, you're going to win and you're going to make a difference and you're going to change things. And so his spirit is with us.
well, absolutely wonderful. And first of all, and I want to make sure I mentioned, thank you much for joining us here. It's the legacy here as you talk about, as you push for this, you're carrying your father's spirit here and pushing forward. This has got to be. I mean, obviously, it's something that you feel as if this is the representation you've had there has not been that good. That this is something that needs to be changed.
Right. And I don't spend too much time talking about my opponent because I believe that we should be running for something. It's just too easy to run against something.
Exactly.
And what we're running for is coming together. We're running for making the rural voice stronger and reminding people that we're not a drain in the world. People are opportunities, people are strength, and the rural voice is a place that's pretty unique and holds a lot of strength. And I want to share that, and I want to make sure I share that down in St. Paul.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad you're in the race, and it's just
Thank you.
and I really all my best to you as you continue for this race. I agree wholeheartedly with you, and I think this is the mistake Democrats have been making for a few election cycles: is that don't give me a reason to vote against that person, give me inspire me, tell me why I should vote for you. So if you were to get down to St. Paul, what would you be championing?
I'd be championing again the rural voice, but also the issues that are prominent in my district, which are healthcare, right, common all over the state, education, broadband, and childcare are big issues out here. Better jobs that pay better with better benefits. Those are the top issues that we're dealing with out here in the rural area that I think people are dealing with everywhere. So I would be championing those for sure.
Let's start with one of the ones you talked broadband. How is your broadband situation there? Because it's interesting. Because I'll talk to some districts. Gosh, one of the first Democrats of the day I did, I don't think he said there was no broadband anywhere in his district. And there are some districts that I've talked with where they've done somewhat well. It's a patchwork at best.
Patchwork at best.
Okay, the best way to describe it.
That's what it is here. Patchwork at best, and I think it makes it difficult for people in our communities to stay caught up technologically in the world. And we can't blame broadband businesses for this because, they need to make a living on what they do. So we have to find a solution that works both for businesses and for these local communities that struggle. Our local businesses in particular struggle with this. How are they going to run a business if they can't have good broadband? So I know it's something that a lot of different groups are working on. They found some solutions in North Dakota, and that's what I would be looking at. What solutions are out there, and how can we make them work in Minnesota?
Well, and when you look at it, I think the mindset, and I know you've not been talking about the Republicans, but the mindset the Republicans have been is that this is an individual thing. Go pay the money if you really want it. The reality is this is an infrastructure improvement. This is like when we built roads or electrical lines,
Exactly.
the TVA. It has become one of those things. And you talk about business, and we've talked a lot about small businesses needing broadband, but you talked healthcare. Broadband is a necessity for healthcare. It's for education. I mean, these kids having to drive. How many kids are in your district have to drive 30 minutes to a coffee shop to do homework at night because they don't have broadband? I mean, this is something that it is more than just a internet or cable TV option. It is an infrastructure improvement that should have been dealt with years ago, but now it needs to definitively be done.
Right. It's moved from a privilege to a right to make things fair, to make things equal. Like you said, it's like saying, okay, if you want to use the road, you have to pay for, that section yourself and then you can drive on it, but you can't drive on any other roads until you personally pay for them. That doesn't make sense. So let's open it up. Let's be more realistic and let's make sure that we're hearing from all the people, because remember that the more people you hear from, the more diverse voices that are at the table, the more information you have, the more likely you are to come across exciting, passionate solutions that end up being fun to implement rather than trudging along and not finding any solutions.
Healthcare, let's get into that a little bit too, because I mean we had a massive problem with our healthcare system, which was initially addressed to a point, although somewhat unsuccessfully, with the Affordable Care Act. But at least we were having lower rates, lower premiums. We had promises of cheaper, more better healthcare. That has not come to fruition. This is the topic, I think, of everyone, because when you're thinking about, especially whether it's a farmer where your margins are $25,000, $26,000 a year, and your health care is going up, $5,000 every quarter, or whether it's the elderly within these communities. And once again, this is a district that, like a lot of the outstate Minnesota, has a very large elderly population that needs healthcare options out there, affordable healthcare options that are accessible. Which goes back to the broadband as well. This is something that it's universal. We have to fix the problem of healthcare in America and in Minnesota.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest piece is affordability. How do we build a system that takes care of everybody? Because after all, we want to be humane. We want to stop this arguing about, again, it's like broadband, about this person should pay personally for that and that person should pay personally for this. How do we come together as communities to build strong structures so that when we do want to implement something as an individual, we're standing on a strong structure of community rather than on this competitive pulling people apart. And healthcare has become this political tool rather than this human right.
Yeah.
And so we have to make it affordable and accessible to all. It's much more simple than people want to make it. People want to make it complicated. But when you sit down and look at the solutions, it's just something that we have to do. And we're moving in that direction. And we'll continue to move in that direction, but we'll definitely continue to move further in that direction if I'm down in St. Paul. Because the people in my community, I mean, you talked about farmers. Some people don't have very good health coverage right now. If they get sick, they're going to lose their farm.
Yeah.
People are losing their houses. And it's not just that. It's the idea that they're working hard and they have this fear that they're going to get sick. So they have this anxiety around them, right? That if I get sick, I'm going to lose everything. And that's not a way to live. That's not a way to thrive.
And you bring in the farmers, and I mean, my heart is with them, because if you're a soybean farmer, you're watching your Chinese market close up. If you're a meat producer, pork, beef, you're looking at China and Mexico closing up. Some dairy in Minnesota going into Canada drying up. I mean, it's hard enough when you're looking at your expenditures growing like that, but when you're looking at your base income being threatened on such a monumental level, I mean, the stress on these people is there. And once again, that's even more health issues.
Exactly. Everybody knows what stress does on you, and it's not good. And I don't think that this national climate is producing any less stress. And my focus in my campaign is local politics. We have to get back to the local. What's happening in these local communities is important, and the strengths in these local communities and the strong voices and the innovation. We're not talking about those. And that needs to be something that gets brought to the forefront. You talk about the Mom and Matt program up in Nadawash that's working on heroin addiction and all sorts of addiction. It's very successful. Nobody's mentioning that. So I'm running because I want to bring those success stories further out. I want to highlight those, because we're not spending any time doing that either. What are the good things in our communities?
Hey, do me a favor, just a quick side note. Send me information. Email me the information about that program you just mentioned. I'll make sure I give some leeway to that. And by the way, another thing that I love about this election cycle is that we've remembered there's an F and an L in the DFL, farm and labor. And and I think labor has always, for the most part, been represented, but we are a party that has always looked out for the farmer, and we've looked at it from that local base, but also looking on an international market. And it's something which, it's a shame it's taken the markets that we have grown dependent on to be threatened for us to remind us of that. But we need to have more effective leadership that knows the product, knows the producer, knows the farmer, and can relay that information down to St. Paul. That is why I think that we need to get more DFLers in there, because the reality is that's where you're going to get representation if you're a farmer. That's the DFL.
Well, and we have a great representative in Colin Peterson. And so I was just having lunch with him today to get advice on what is happening. I wanted information on what is happening and what is the role of somebody at the House level, at the state level, in relation to your role at the federal level. And so, Colin Peterson is our leader in this, and he is DFL. He is the Democrat. and that's national. And so we have a strong leader for our farmers right from here who grew up farming. So we have the answer right in front of us.
So let's say this once again. You're going up to, say, beautiful Park Rapids or Itasca. You want to go do that quick little jump across the Mississippi River at the very beginning of it.
Right.
You want to go out some of the most beautiful trails. Oh my God, the trails in your district are as good as they get. I was mountain biking up there when I was there. It really was. It is. I flushed a moose once time with a mountain bike.
Wow, nice.
That scared me to death.
You should be scared. They can take you out.
He was. I think me, big guy on a mountain bike. I think I scared the moose more than me. We both went the opposite direction really quick. But no, it's a beautiful place. A lot of people going up there, volunteering to do some door knocking. You have some parades, and you got some. Has the county fairs gone on yet?
Still some county fairs, powwows.
Nice.
We can always use people door knocking. Of course, we can always use donations. People can give up to $1,000, but if you give $50 as an individual or $100 as a couple, you can get that money back through the public subsidy program, and you do not have to be in my district to get that money back through the public subsidy program. But any help at all. Phone banking, if people are uncomfortable door knocking, we'll have phone banking events. And we'll be listing my events on my website, which is KarenBrandenMN.com. And Branden is Branden, not O-N, but just KarenBrandenMN.com. And I have a wonderful volunteer coordinator. Her name is Anna Fingelson. Shout out to Anna Fingelson. And she's fantabulous. So we have a great team up here. We would love people to become involved. We're all invested in flipping this seat.
And once again, here's my statement I always make. Guys, help your local Democrat by all means. But if you're in one of those relatively safe districts, get out of the metro area. We need to go flip.
You.
The Republicans are banking on the Democrats not trying to compete in outstate Minnesota. What will flip a majority of those seats in the Minnesota House is the Republicans having to actually work to hold those seats because they haven't had to do that in a long time.
Right.
And so the DFL challenging them is a big deal. Getting up there, door knocking. I can't tell you how many stories we've heard of people who have said, I haven't had a Democrat come by in 20 years and talk to me. So getting up there, talking to all the people in the district, getting to these parades, getting to these county fairs, going to the events, making the phone bank, or just writing a check. If you can do that, once again, it's Karen Branden, BrandenMN.com. I'll link to the website on Twitter and Facebook a little bit later on. Go on up there, volunteer 4-hour shift while you're on a vacation. It's a great way to do it. We got August left before we start getting into the back to school and stuff. So August is the time to go up to 2B and help out. Karen.
Absolutely. And we're a lot of fun up here. I mean, we're running a hard campaign. We're very serious. We're very professional, but man, we have a ton of fun. So, if you want to be involved in politics and have a good time, we're definitely the place to stop by.
Karen, once again, from myself here and everyone at AM50, all our best to you on your loss. Your strength is absolutely amazing. This has been a delight. You have been one of my favorite Democrats of the day. I am so happy you joined us. and by all means, when we get a little closer, let's see if we can get you back on again, okay?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for doing this. And thank you for connecting the urban and the rural, because I think we're too separate. And Thank you for that solid strategy. Like, hey, if your Democrat is doing fine in your district, reach out and help another district flip, because your Democrat in your district is going to want you to do that.
Oh, yeah, they will. Oh, yes, they all those Metro Democrats, they want as many of these seats to go to the blue as possible. Karen,
exactly.
Karen Branden, 2B, Karen
2B.
Branden, 2B, Karen Branden, Democrat of the Day. Karen, thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.